Welcome back to another Entrepreneur Sunday here on BNC. When you think of black heroes in comic books, you can probably count the number of characters on one hand. Well, for years, black people have been underrepresented or misrepresented in the comic book arena until now. A new league of black creators are turning the page on the way our stories are told. Manuel Godoy is the president of Black Sands Entertainment. Manuel Godoy, thank you so much for joining us for Entrepreneur Sunday, and welcome to BNC.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are excited to have you with us. So, Manuel, some of your works actually include Kids to Kings and Sons of Nibiru. Your wife is a co-publisher who created Maury's Family Adventures. Tell us how you got started and how did Black Sands Entertainment come about?
Yeah, well, at first I wanted to make video games a long time ago, and I was pursuing that for a minute. And eventually I realized I couldn't afford it, and that was back in 2016. So I killed that, changed the story up, and started making comic books. In 2017, I raised $20,000 for Kids to Kings in order to make that comic book series on Kickstarter, and we haven't looked back since. Now it's called Black Sands: The Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, and I mean, did you have a love for comics? What brought you to this point?
I'm actually a really big manga and anime guy, so I was always into that stuff. Naruto, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball when I was growing up. Way back in the days in the 90s. I was a big geek on that stuff.
I remember Dragon Ball Z. And so, Manuel, you don't really see many black faces in the comic book world. What's the importance of actually weaving the black experience into comics?
Well, our company in general is just a big rebellion against the industry standards for how you should tell black stories. There's too many stories about civil rights, slavery, and drug lords and stuff, and not enough about African civilizations. In fact, 40 years, we haven't had one major productions yet. So our company has been focusing exclusively on that, and parents, influencers, and educators have really embraced that message.
And what's some of your favorite stories to tell?
Well, I talk about ancient Egyptian mythology, following the rise of Asar. I also have other publishers on our app who are doing East African, West African content, including Chayoma and Buze and the Newborn series. And we got a whole bunch of really amazing titles from all over the Pan America, you know what I mean? And it's just amazing.
And so what were some of the challenges you faced getting your business off the ground? This is not something that typically, black folks go into business doing, but what type of challenges did you face?
The challenge was knowing that I would never get an industry deal in the first place, no matter what I did. Black Sands already sold 100,000 copies, but it's all independent, direct to consumer, and publishers did turn me down because they couldn't think that they could sell the books. You know what I'm saying? And I knew that was going to happen from the jump. That's why I always, talked a certain way and tried to teach my community, right, that they had to take action. They couldn't wait for Netflix or something to make a deal for us. We had to make it ourselves.
I love that. And what type of action did you have to take in order to make sure you still got to live out your dream?
Oh man, I didn't get paid for like 3 years when I was doing this. I didn't receive a single check. Look, the thing about it is, I was always preparing to be a big company one day. So when I was just regular making comic books just for myself, I still was not paying myself, reinvesting all the money into future productions and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It only was last year when we actually started paying ourselves, right? That's because my wife was like, "We need to see a return." So we finally started paying ourselves, but it's been an amazing experience. We raised $1 million last year through our fans in order to make the app BSP Comics, and yeah, it's just been incredible.
Did I hear that? You said you raised $1 million last year?
Yeah, we raised $1 million last year. Currently, in the last 2 weeks, we raised $540,000 in order to expand the app. And we're still raising on that right now. So yeah, we have this extreme popularity offline. The media, I haven't had much media coverage, but it's starting to change now.
Yeah, what a blessing. I mean, that's why my mouth dropped. I'm like, my God, so many people work so hard to get to the point, and obviously you were doing that, you and your wife, with it being 3 years without getting paid. So talk a little bit about the app that you launched, comics app, filled with action-packed adventures, told by some of the brightest storytellers in the black community. Tell us about some of the featured creators and their storylines.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have at least 24 creators who are signed exclusively to our app. We have series like Millennial Comics. They make a story about a family of cousins who are superheroes, but it's not people wearing costumes or anything like that. They're actually regular kids from the hood, and they're caught in a whole bunch of people trying to take advantage of them, and they're just kids, man. So they don't know what to do with this, right? And it's a really good, genuine feeling that you actually feel the culture of, you can connect to it, right? Then we have you have space operas like Macchiato, and obviously we got some other titles that are more historical like Inca, and other things like that. It's just an incredible thing. We have 500 chapters on our app, and it's very much like webtoons, right? Completely free, so anybody could download it on iOS, Android.
Wow, that is amazing, Manuel. And so, you talked about your platform a lot. It's also designed to help Black content creators get discovered. What are you looking for in those artists, and what are the steps to get published?
Yeah, so one thing we're looking at is quality is the first factor. So you got to have at least an intermediate quality factor when it comes to art. This is basically like a really elite kind of service for users. We want them, since we don't want to alienate anybody, or the first time they look at a comic book, it doesn't look up to par, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to give Black comics a chance. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So everybody has to be at a certain standard. I also look for certain themes. So like I said at the beginning, I don't want any of the themes that there's already way too much of in the industry, right? I don't want to see no costume superheroes going around saving the day, or lightning powered, heroes, right? I want to see something different. So if it's different, it's in, right? And lastly, it has to be somewhat family friendly, like YA at the most, right? I don't have any adult content on the app. People do die because history has a lot of death, right? But there's no sexual content, a lot of cursing or like gore and stuff like that. That's not allowed in our app because we are planning on licensing to high schools all across the nation.
Wow. I mean, that is just such a blessing to be able to put that in schools, and then also just how you're showcasing us in a better light, because those stories sometimes are just continue to be the same, like you said. So lastly, you mentioned where people have to go. I picked up my phone, I found the app. How do people find you?
Yes, so you can download BSP Comics on the App Store. Just type BSP. It'll probably be the first thing that comes up because we've been very popular recently. And you can download it there. You can also invest in our company, BSP Comics, by going to WeFunder.com/BSP Comics, or going right there and searching for us. And, you can become a stockholder. We have plenty of stockholders already. We have 1,200 investors this round alone, and we only been up for 2 weeks. So, we're doing great, and join the movement.
Oh, yes, I love that. And Manuel, before I let you go, what has been the most rewarding for you?
I think the most rewarding thing, you got to read some of these testimonies of the people who invest in our company. I mean, they all have kids. Like 55% of my customers are parents, right? And they'd be like, I've been trying forever to get my kids into comics. I've been in comics my whole life, and he ain't like any of them. But you can't put that Black Sands down. He keeps bugging me for the next one. So thank you so much for doing this. It's like it converts kids. You got to understand. I've done professional development for librarians all the time. And one thing that they've had the big problem for them when it comes to Black students is they don't want to read period reluctant, because everything they consume is European, right? So they just don't feel any connection to reading in the general, and then they don't do it. When we introduce these comics to them, they start reading. After they get really hooked into reading, all of a sudden they can read all the academic stuff that they want them to read as well. So it's a win-win for everybody,
Yeah, that is so dope. Lack of better words, that's all I can say. I love it. Well, Manuel, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us for Entrepreneur Sunday, and I wish you all the best. It seems like the investors are already locked in, so I pray that more keep coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And